Hello and thank you for watching. This is SDSC back again with LEGO Transformers Predaking Part 4, Razorclaw. Razorclaw was the first Predacon I built. While planning the combiner, I felt that the torso would be the easiest place to get stuck. It could easily become a roadblock, and if I committed too much time to making the limbs and then couldn't figure out the torso, well, I'd kinda be screwed. So I decided to get the hard part out of the way up front, and I ended up being really happy with what I came up with. In fact, I'd probably say he's my favorite member of the team. I think his lion mode is easily the best beast mode out of any of the 5 Predacons, and I just think it looks super cool. Turning it around, you can see, I think it's a lot less gappy and a lot more fully fledged than any of the other members. You can see the head poking out a little back here, but that's a byproduct of trying to make the torso mode as solid as possible. I didn't want to make the torso hollow so the head could flip in, because that would make it a lot less structurally sound. So in the end, the head had to kind of fold up in the back. And to compensate, I gave the lion this big back turret, which personally I actually think looks pretty cool. But yeah, it is just there to hide his head. For articulation in this mode, his head is able to ever so slightly look left and right, as well as up and down. It's very limited, but inside there actually is a ball joint. I wanted there to be some articulation, but unfortunately, just due to the shaping of the head, it is pretty limited. The front legs can swing forward and back, as well as in and out. There's a bend at the elbow, which can go a little under 90 degrees, and the paw is on a ball joint. The rear legs are attached by a ball joint, but personally I don't think it looks any good when used in this mode, and it's mostly just there for robot mode. The rest of the legs do have a couple hinges, which allow for a little bit of articulation, and again, the paw is on a ball joint, and there is a little paw hinge here. And the tail has 3 hinge joints. For a size comparison, here we have a minifigure. Here we have Dive Bomb, Rampage, and Headstrong and Tantrum. That's all there is to say about Razorclaw and his lion modes. Now it's time to transform. And here we have Razorclaw in his robot mode, where I think he looks pretty cool. He definitely has some slightly awkward proportions, which are mostly due to the fact he has to turn into the combiner torso. His legs are kind of thick and stumpy, but generally I think it looks okay. Turning him around, you can see that for the most part he doesn't have very much kibble, but he does have these 2 big chunks here, kind of just hanging out on his back. Those are part of his torso mode, but unfortunately in robot mode they don't really have much to do. Focusing in on his upper body, I just want to call out his head design. It's super simple, but I think it's very effective, and it gives him these kind of cat-like ears, which seems appropriate for a lion former. He also has these weird kind of collar spires here, which were just a fluke of the transformation, but personally I think they look pretty cool and help make him look a little bit more unique. The guns on his shoulders are attached to the aforementioned kibble chunks, which themselves are attached to the torso by a mixel joint. So there is a little bit of wiggle room and range for posing the guns. I personally like to kind of pinch them together back here so that they're splayed and kind of aiming outwards. For weapons, I've given Razorclaw a pair of red arrow blades. They can peg onto his wrist and then switch between wrist-mounted and handheld. Alternately, both blades can be pegged onto the same hand and switch between wrist-mounted broadsword and dual-bladed saber. For articulation, Razorclaw's head can look left and right, as well as up and down a little bit. His shoulders can go forward and back, in and out, and then he has a bend at the elbow, as well as a ball joint at the wrist. For transformation, he has a ratcheted waist swivel, and his back can kind of arch like this. His hips are big ball joints, which can go forward and backwards, as well as in and out. Then his knees have a 90-degree bend and a second bend, so actually double jointed knees. And the ankles are mixel joints with hinged heals. For a size comparison, here we have a minifigure. Here we have Dive Bomb. Here we have Rampage. And last but not least, Headstrong and Tantrum. I've never been a big fan of when the torso bot of a combiner is massive compared to the limb bots. I've always felt it looks just a little bit comical. And while Razorclaw is noticeably bigger than his teammates, I don't think it's to a drastic amount. I still think they look reasonable posed together, and it's not like he's leading an army of minicons or something. Razorclaw is the biggest and the best of the Predacons. He definitely makes sacrifices for the combined mode, just like the other four, but I think of the bunch, he's easily the coolest. There's just a certain vibe to how he looks that really resonates with me. But now that I've covered all 5 individual Predacons, there's just one thing left. Predaking.